What's up, my ravenous raccoons rollerblading through the city? Welcome back to Off the Top Podcast. Hope you're enjoying your Memorial Day weekend at this point. And maybe, with this extra time, you'd like to make a little extra money. Today, we'll be talking about side hustles. As always, I'm your host, Julian, chilling with your boy, Jordan. Jordan, how you doing?
Good. I didn't know it was Memorial Day weekend, though. So I'm kind of sad that I don't get to, celebrate with my people back home.
Yeah, a little jump across the ocean there. But I mean, wherever you are, you got to make extra money, and side hustles are the way to do it. 2019, opportunities are everywhere.
Exactly. I think one thing that kind of spurred us on to talk about this subject in particular is kind of like the hot trend at almost nauseum of the word and the use of the word entrepreneur, and people talking about just hustle in general to get that money and to have some sort of financial success. And we see people now more and more, not just relying on one source of income, but multiple to kind of bring home the bacon, so to speak.
And there's tools surrounding you everywhere to be informed and teach yourself on these side hustles or make money from your hobbies or your passions, whether it be something new like driving for Uber, or it's something old like landscaping or mowing lawns. There's endless opportunities. You just got to find the market to break in there and start making a little bit of extra money.
I really like the term that you use as far as break in there, because I think it is one of those things where when you're doing your side hustle, you got to think it's a side hustle. It's not your main hustle. If you want it to be your main hustle, then you'd approach it maybe slightly differently. But the first course of action is obviously jumping into it and getting it going. Regardless of what you're doing, just start and you'll be light years ahead of everybody else who's just thinking about it.
And one of the side hustles I would like to recommend to start out with, I'm going to go traditional in this sense. And I think that's just finding odd jobs on Craigslist. There's endless YouTube videos on people paying their rent with these odd jobs. You kind of have to be comfortable and confident in yourself because there's a lot of odd things, whether it's helping someone move, it's bathing a cat, it's doing whatever it may be that you find on Craigslist or Facebook message boards where someone's willing to pay you, $100, $75 for an hour of your time for a task that may be a little bit lighter. Is $75 in your pocket? That's hard to turn down when, you could just be watching Netflix.
That's a good point, man. Craigslist is an amazing spot to find gigs just because it's a really cool platform specifically, and just kind of like others as far as like Fiverr goes and things where you can kind of advertise your skills or let it be known that you have these capabilities and you can help other people out. And I think that that's like an excellent segue into thinking about what you would want to do as a side hustle. And sometimes it's something that you're really close to what you're doing already. So for instance, I am working as a data scientist right now currently. And so the easiest side hustle for me would be to do data sciencey stuff on the side, right?
As Jordan mentioned, there are a ton of platforms out there. One of the more notable ones being Fiverr. And there's a ton of ways to get your name out there and show that experience where you create your resume, your portfolio of something you are experiencing or something you enjoy or you're learning about. And maybe someone who doesn't have that experience is going to say, hey, Jordan is a data scientist and is good at these skill sets that I need to help my business or help with this project. I'm going to contract him out and pay him to do this service. Well, that's not Jordan's full-time job. He may have time, after work or after school or on the weekends to perform that task.
Exactly. And I think that you touched on a subject that's super important, I feel like, to side hustles in an implicit way. And it is that this is basically your side hustle. So this is what you do on the side. You don't want to quit your job just right off the bat to like hop into something else. And you don't want to necessarily take risks. So for instance, if Julian right now is doing a specific job. Let's say Julian is a professional podcaster. All of a sudden, if he wants to make a side hustle, it probably shouldn't be something like giving people underwater tours around great white sharks. Don't take those risks like out of reason for your side hustle. And it might be his passion. It might be something he's skilled at. But those two things I feel like might need to be checked, specifically the skill and the experience part before you jump into the deep end. Pun intended.
Yeah, boy, if those great white sharks coming at me chomping while I'm doing my tourist gig, it may be enticing, but it's going to chomp out of my main profit and my main way of life, which is my main job, until I get in, break in over time to get there. And that's the thing you have to think about a lot of these side hustles you'll see. Some common side hustles you see are podcasts, YouTube, maybe a little bit of social media marketing. Maybe it's Twitch and live streaming. Like some of those things are going to take time because it's an audience based program. So if you're trying to become an influencer and do your own social media marketing, you have to build an audience. And to build that audience, it isn't going to happen overnight. It isn't going to happen over a week. It's going to take a while to build that so that you can capitalize making revenue via advertisements or product placements or contracts with other companies in those services such as YouTube, podcast, influencing, live streaming, etc., and those side hustles that are going to take time. And that's why you have to understand the balance between your side hustle and your main gig and where you want to be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, what that really means to you.
Hell yeah, Julian. The one thing that I can really get on board with, and I think that listeners should take away from, is that you got to be patient. Regardless of what you're doing as far as your side hustle goes, it's going to take at least a little bit of patience to start yourself up and get going, regardless of if you're building an audience or you need to gather the supplies to make your home baked goods that you're going to start selling on the weekends at farmers markets or anything like that. It's going to take a little bit of time. So just understand that, it's a side hustle and it's not something that you can sprint to automatically. It's something that you work your way into just like you would do anything else in your life.
And in some instances, these side hustles for short term don't have to be something you entirely love if you're really looking for extra money to make ends meet or to do rent. Like I guarantee you, if you went out and looked to, clean friends' cars, you look to clean friends' houses, as Jordan said, you baked and sold at a farmer's market, things of that nature where inherently you're like, I don't want to clean someone else's stuff. But if you don't want to clean your stuff and your friends don't want to clean their stuff and they'll pay you to do it, it's $25 in your pocket, $100, whatever it may be, to do that short term to make those end meets. And that's one of the goals you have to decide with your side hustles. Is this something I'm doing to make ends meet because I can't afford the lifestyle that I'm currently living or I need a little extra money? Or is it a side hustle that I want to grow over time because it's a passion and I'd like to make money from drawing and, making illustrations and animations and cartoons? What is the goal with the side hustle?
There's something I want to touch on too that you just said as far as when you're doing your side hustle, it's important to know that, where you want to end up at or where you want to go with it. And so if it is something where you're just like starting out and you're thinking, this could be something that I'm going to do small on the side, then it's totally okay. And even advisable, even if it's not, to kind of bootstrap it at first. And when I mean bootstrap, I mean to kind of like get down and dirty. Like maybe for your side hustle, you are just cleaning cars or something like Julian said. And at that point, it's going to be one of those things where it's not going to be that high of cost, which is the best part about the side hustle. You shouldn't cost you a lot of money to do it, right? And so that's why I think bootstrapping is one of those unsung heroes. When you're bootstrapping, nobody notices. But when you're not and expenses are high, I guarantee you'll notice it.
Yeah, I think Jordan has a great point there is you don't want to invest a lot of money into something you may be unsure about or how you'll be seeing a return on it. As a side hustle. Obviously, if you're starting a business and that's your deep dive, then, be responsible with that and how you're investing to start that and, getting your funds. But, there's a lot of different variables that happen. And at this point, you're probably wondering, what are a few side hustles that are relatively easy to get into or, maybe just looking for some ideas on how to make money on the side. Jordan and I have some or have tried some side hustles in the past that we're looking forward to share a little bit with you guys.
Julian, do you want to start off with your homemade stripping service?
It's unbelievable how glistening my skin was during that period of time. But, unfortunately, I wasn't getting paid for those services and it might be illegal in some places. But, what I did learn from that was I had a very good ability to resell shoes that I was wearing while dancing, if you know what I'm saying. And reselling is a huge thing as a side hustle, whether it be going to Goodwill and finding, shoes or baseball cards or clothing or furniture, and finding out that there's a market for vintage sports tees or for handcrafted wooden items or collectible mugs. Or it's Nike shoes, taking those, knowing the value, educating yourself on that, and then placing that on a marketplace like Craigslist, eBay, or various avenues to sell for an upcharge of $5, $10. You get lucky, $100, whatever it may be, is a quick way to see a return on your money if you're willing to put the work in to flip or resell an item.
So one thing that me and you definitely have when it comes to similarities in our side hustle journey, my side hustles kind of stemmed from I had a side hustle where I was just reselling cell phones for a second there when I was I think in high school. And then I eventually kind of flipped a motorcycle or two in my day. And the reason why I kind of fell into those is because of my natural interest and knowledge in them. Just like your sneaker reselling thing, when it comes from kind of your interest and what you enjoy learning about and what you are particularly knowledgeable about, you can make kind of smart moves and have a pretty smooth side hustle when it comes to relying on your somewhat expertise in something.
Yeah, and it's very similar to that time when you were selling pictures of yourself, stock photos of yourself to others to make money.
That was just more of a gift, bar mitzvahs, Christmas, weddings. That was just a gift, Julian.
And yeah, that is another avenue for you. If you're interested in photography, right? You work a full-time job, but on the weekend, you can take portraits, you can take stock photos. People can request certain photos that they're looking for, and there's services out there where they say, hey, take a photo of this, or, you learn how to take quality, family photos, and you just get started for people who can't afford big time photographers, and you work your way up. That's a couple hours to make, whatever you're charging that's reasonable at that price with, your learning of how to use a camera and be a photographer and getting comfortable with something you might enjoy as well.
So there's something I want to give you guys as a gift, and it's one of the side hustles that I was considering doing myself, but don't seem to have the time. So I want one of you listeners to do it. And specifically, I don't think that it's one thing that if you're not this type of person or you're not a certain human being, you can't do it. You can just do it in a different way. But particularly, I give free clearance to steal my side hustle. Silly idea of I was going to go and be a voiceover person and just say things particularly in a Black way. So someone who's going to hire me to say, speak on their voicemail machine in a very Black way, or just say anything that they would send me to read in a Black way or in a deep tone of voice. And so you guys are more than happy, or more than welcome, that is, to borrow that, take it, run with it, talk with it. And I want to see some big things. And if you do use that side hustle, please reach out back to us and say, hey, I'm killing it, man. Here's a little bit of royalty, for the idea.
Yeah. And if you guys are wondering what that sounds like, Jordan, if you could just give them here's a free voicemail for our listeners. Jordan, if you could quickly tell them, hey, you've reached Off the Top Podcast. Please leave a message at the beep in your Black voice. Could you do that for us?
In my Black voice? Yeah. Let me channel it for a second. I'm in podcast mode right now. Yeah.
This is a first time for you guys, so feel free to take a snippet of this. And while Jordan gets ready, we always appreciate you guys sending, your Anchor voice messages and reaching out to us. And if you'd like a special message from a very distinct Black voice or Morgan Freeman, let us know. Jordan, are you ready?
Hey, back up, bro. It's my time to talk. Hey, what's good, homies? I appreciate you leaving this voice message. Hey, shut the boy. If you don't make me, sorry, y'all, I got distracted. Thank you for sending me this voice message. Thanks for supporting Off the Top Podcast. We really appreciate it. And I hope you use that side hustle because I think it is such a good time. Obviously, my Black voice is a tiny bit rusty out in out in England, you don't, we talk a little different out here, but you could see the potential, ladies and gentlemen.
And, to go further with Jordan's idea, right, there's also the ability to do audiobooks or be a commercial voice. And there's platforms out there to do those types of things where you get paid per minute or per word or per finished product, so to speak, in that facility. So if you have a nice microphone or you're doing a podcast and on the side you want to try to make some other money, audiobooks and things of that nature, voiceovers, that's 100% a gig. And you can take it a step further and do what Jordan's doing or something very similar and potentially see, a little bit of money come through.
Exactly. I think that was a really good point in the aspect of you just I think the general pursuit or the first step in side hustles is just going for it, regardless of what it is, regardless of how you're going to do it. Just make sure you take that first step, because there's no difference between you not having a side hustle at all and having a really solid one, besides the first time that you tried it and the second time that you tried it and so on.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the main gist of, at least from my perspective, if somebody was going to ask me, hey, what do you think is the most important part of having a solid side hustle, is starting a side hustle in general.
There's so many opportunities. Airbnb is a side hustle. There's services where you can rent out your driveway for people to park to be a side hustle. There's cooking. There's making podcasts, like we had mentioned already. There's so many different ways to do it. And I honestly believe in today's society, you can make money doing almost anything. Don't hold me to that, but there's definitely a way to make money on whatever you do or whatever you enjoy. Whether that's going to be easy or not, or there's going to be longevity to it, is up to the universe. But you could try to branch out and make the money by doing it. Because look at it. And today, look at Instagram. People make money off of their dogs. You wouldn't have thought that 15 or 20 years ago, that some people are pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from photos of their dog who have a social media influence.
Check out Ray Ray and people get likes like nobody's business. But bring it back to the kind of the serious tone. I think that, the internet is a gorgeous place and a beautiful place to start a side hustle, because those niches that everyone has in their kind of their interests or their knowledge base can be utilized on the internet in extraordinary ways. Just for a random example, I had read about a person making a living wage off running a website of just basically videos of him smashing bugs with their shoes, or women smashing bugs in high heels, and you make a living wage off that. Something super weird, super nichey, super what? I've never thought of that in my life, but there's people out on the internet that are into that. So I think that if you weren't sure what your side hustle was going to be, or kind of you wanted one, but you're looking for an idea, I think that if you kind of look to the internet, you will be able to find one that is actually going to be super cool, super helpful, and super customized to kind of your interests and your knowledge base.
As we've mentioned, these are side hustles. These are really broad strokes on what you can do and what you can make money from. But this is not to skimp over. There is a business aspect to it, right? If you start pulling in a lot of money, you're going to want to form some sort of corporation, whether it be an LLC or, a partnership of some nature, because you don't want to be pulling in all this money and then get taxed super heavy at the end of the year, or get audited or something like that. So, there's other things that go into a side hustle once you start seeing it being profitable. But to what Jordan said earlier and foreshadowed about is, you won't know that until you get into the game. And in order to get in the game, you got to figure out what you want to do, what you enjoy, or what you think you're going to make a quick buck for, and get into finding a side hustle.
100%. I agree. Obviously don't go to jail. Don't go to prison over a side hustle. Pay your taxes, do kind of things that aren't illegal, and just kind of start. Pretty much. I mean, I feel like we kind of went over, ideas and the starting kind of qualities you would want in a side hustle. And at this point, I mean, this is a real call to action-y type of thing I'm about to say. But at this point, it's just up to you guys to kind of like take the reins and go for it.
You know what else is up to you guys? We appreciate if you leave a like on this podcast, send us a comment, send us a voice message, screenshot it, share it with us on social at Off the Top Cast, email us, theoffthetop.podcast.com. We hope this helps you out. We know historically that you guys rock with these kind of entrepreneurial self-starter type podcasts, whether it be creating successful habits, which we've talked about, or various other entrepreneurial stuff we've mentioned in the past, like forming a business. We have a podcast on that. We love your support, and we super appreciate to have you around and have you listening.
Yeah, 100%. And one last thing, I want to give a shout out to Nick Angus for giving us a voice message not too long ago saying he appreciates and really enjoys the podcast. Nick, we appreciate you at Off the Top, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Until next time.